Hello, my name is Pia and you're watching Deep Dive on NewsX World. Today we will be examining the curious case of Nexperia, a Dutch company specializing in semiconductors, which finds itself at the heart of a rapidly escalating diplomatic row between China and Europe as the global automobile supply chain hangs in the balance. Now consider a car like the Volkswagen Golf GTI, a front-wheel drive with a 2-liter TSI engine putting out 265 horsepower, big enough to seat a family of 4 in comfort and fast enough to excite even the most weathered of petrol heads. German engineering at its finest. A whole host of the features in this car run on semiconductor chips made by a company called Nexperia. And this is not just the case for Volkswagen. The Nexperia chips power components used in vehicles by the likes of BMWs, Mercedes, Benz, Jaguar, Land Rover, Honda and General Motors. While not all these companies buy directly from Nexperia, all of them use components that feature these small, carefully crafted chunks of metal. A disruption in supply of Nexperia chips would mean entire factories and production lines shutting down across the world. Now, Nexperia has its roots in Dutch consumer electronics giant Philips Semiconductor division, which dates back to the 1920s. Today, it is headquartered in the city of Nijmegen with R&D facilities across the world, including in places such as Hamburg and Munich in Germany, Stockport in the United Kingdom, Dallas in the United States, Penang in Malaysia, Osaka in Japan, and Shanghai and Shenzhen in China. In 2018, Nexperia was acquired by Wingtech Technology for some $3.6 billion. Wingtech is a partially state-owned Chinese company with interests in core components for technology, primarily for mobile phones. At the main bulk of Nexperia's manufacturing comes in the form of wafers, the base material for making multiple semiconductor chips. These wafers are primarily fabricated in Europe and then sent to Nexperia's plant in Dongguan in China, where they are cut and packaged for use in automobiles and other electronics. Thus, we come to the core issue of today. On the 13th of October this year, the Dutch government used a Cold War-era law to nationalize Nexperia. The Dutch government cited serious governance shortcomings and intelligence that the Chinese CEO was attempting to move vital intellectual property and production to China. This meant that while the company, based in Nijmegen and owned by China's Wingtech Technologies, can continue regular production, its decisions can be blocked or reversed by the Dutch government. Beijing's retaliation was swift and severe. It banned the exports of all Nexperia chips packaged in China, which are essential for the global automobile industry. And here's what Chinese Commerce Ministry spokesperson He Yongchan had to say about the Dutch government's move.
中方坚决反对何方反泛化国家安全概念，以行政手段直接插手企业内部事务，和此举不仅违反契约精神与市场的原则，还将严重损害和营商环境。
On the geopolitical front, the Netherlands and China have been locked in negotiations for the last 2 weeks, which has resulted in a truce of sorts. On the 9th of November, China announced exemptions for civilian use of Nexperia chips, allowing some finished chips to be delivered to major automakers and equipment manufacturers. Companies like Honda and BMW have confirmed that some shipments have resumed, and this has narrowly averted an immediate, widespread shutdown of car production lines. Amid all this, the blame game continues, with China still squarely blaming the Dutch nationalization of Nexperia to be the root of the disruption to this major line of semiconductor supply. Now, the disruption to the supply of these semiconductors have seriously threatened the global supply chain of automobiles to the extent that companies have taken procurement in their own hands now. According to reports, companies like Honda, Bosch and Volkswagen are now procuring the wafers from Nexperia Europe and shipping it themselves to Nexperia's China plant for the finished product. While this is not being deemed as a catch-all situation, it does provide the markets with a brief reprieve to lock in other options should this saga drag out even further. It is just a glimpse of the immense presence of China on the world's supply of critical semiconductor chips. China today is outright the world leader in publishing research and patent applications. In 2020, China represented 53.7% of all semiconductor sales in the world. Today, China leads the world in terms of the number of new semiconductor fabrication plants, and if that was not enough, China outright runs the supply chains for rare earths, which are used to fabricate the chips that finally power semiconductors. China accounts for almost 70% of the world's rare earth production from mines and processes almost 90% of the world's output of rare earths. This puts China in a pole position to control the world's supply of semiconductors, and curbs on exports placed by the Chinese government threatens to bring the global supply chains of electronics to a grinding halt. With us on the broadcast is Dr. Sharath Kohli, senior economist. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Now, the saga has definitely aggravated since October, but it's been well known since 2021, when China had in fact imposed certain curbs on the chips being sent across. What do you make of what's being played out for the last couple of years as far as Nexperia is concerned? Though there have been decisions, there have been meetings taking place, and a fresh decision by the Chinese government has also come out easing the export of these chips. How do you see it playing from here?
Hi, Pia, and greetings to the viewers of NewsX World. I think this is a classic China case where they dominate the supplies of many of the goods. This includes rare earth minerals, and now, of course, these semiconductor chips. So what they do is they first control the supply. They retain the manufacturing processing facilities within their country. They work hard on that. They work for decades, and once they find that they are in a dominating position, they use it as a tool to bargain and do whatever they want to, in terms of arm twisting and so on and so forth. I think we saw that happening in the case of US and China some time ago, when China had blocked these rare earth mineral export to the US, when President Trump had to meet President Xi Jinping, and he had to cut down the tariffs. So it was used as a bargaining tool, where tariffs were cut down from 57% to 47%. And China relaxed, okay, for 1 year, we are not going to put these restrictions on export of rare earth minerals. And now it is in the crossfire of US and China. I would say Europe is caught in between, because this is how, when geopolitical tensions and Cold War tensions build up, this is how they affect supplies on the ground. The companies like Mercedes-Benz, companies like BMW, Jaguar, Land Rover, General Motors, Honda, they are all impacted, because the Dongguan facility in China is where the packaging of these chips is done. And Goods Availability Act, PIA, is the law which Netherlands has used to seize control over the company. Now, it's a very strange case. So the company's got a facility in Netherlands, and the packaging and the main activity, the supplies happen from China. So now here is a problem: when the factory being located in Netherlands is being taken over, or for that matter, the control is being taken over by Netherlands. This is going to irk China, because this company is owned by Yuqing Holdings. This is a company which in turn is held by Wingtech. Now, Wingtech is a publicly listed company. It's a technology group, and it is widely accepted now that Wingtech Group is controlled by the Chinese government. And that's where the concern of Netherlands came, that probably there is an attempt to pilfer the data, to pilfer the intellectual property rights, and to gain control over European customers, of the ones that I named. So it's a very unique case, and I hope this gets resolved soon. Otherwise, there's going to be crossfire between Europe and China, and I would say America and China, where Europe is caught in this crossfire. Well, the geopolitical tensions and the geo-economic tensions related to supply chain management seem to be hitting larger companies, and Nexperia is making those very vital semiconductor chips, as you rightly said in the beginning of what you said. I think China has learned that how, when it controls supply of important supply chain elements, can really dominate and can really cause trouble. We've seen that happening many times now. In fact, we saw that happening not just in case of America. We saw that happening in case of India and China as well. Well, China had control over fertilizers, it blocked that. China had control over certain engineering goods, it blocked that. So we've seen that happening more often than not. And I think the world must now learn a lesson, that if you do not establish the facility within your country, if you do not have control, or if you're not self-dependent for that matter, I think whatever China controls, it can easily arm twist at any point of time, Pia.
Indeed, and I was just looking this up because it does seem that certain Nexperia components are also used in some Chinese, automotive vehicles, EV vehicles such as BYD. In such a scenario, where China has to grapple with its national security concerns and its economic concerns as well, because it is the world's largest EV producer. How do you view Beijing's current steps in order to balance these considerations that it has?
Well, China, Pia, has other options as well, but unfortunately, Europe has very limited options. And there are security concerns expressed at both the ends. In fact, Europe, or Netherlands for that matter, feels that the way China is controlling this particular company, which is located in Netherlands, I think it can block our supplies at any point of time. So in anticipation of what happened in the US, I think Netherlands went on to make sure that the Goods Availability Act is imposed, and the control of the company is taken over. And since the company is controlled by Yuqing Holdings, which is based out of Hong Kong, I think China did not like it. So China said that we have a security concern. We cannot let our company be controlled by the Netherlands government. So there is a conflict there. I think it will also build into a diplomatic row, and I'm sure it will get resolved because there are thousands of people working in this company. There are people working in China. There are people working in Netherlands as well. It's a very unique situation where the manufacturing facility is in Netherlands, but the packaging and export and the final processing happens from China. So to prevent stalling of companies' activity altogether, I think a solution will have to be found sooner than later, Pia.
Absolutely, Dr. Kohli. With that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time,
My pleasure.
joining us on NewsX Deep Dive, of course, explaining to our viewers what exactly is going on as far as the Nexperia saga is concerned. We'll be back with more such interesting segments. Stay tuned on NewsX World for more.